Predicting this year's worst to first team, or teams. Now they say the NFL is a league of parity, right? I've never understood that because as far as I remember, Weird Al Yankovic has never performed a Super Bowl halftime show and he was the king of parody. But I think that means that the NFL, the teams copy each other's paths to success and therefore we get a lot of bad teams turning it around quickly every year. Last year, the worst to first team was not my Denver Broncos, as I like to predict every year, but the Houston Texans. Many of us thought the Texans had a chance to be good this year in 2024, but CJ Stroud is a fucking dog, and Houston went from having the second overall pick in the draft, a blessing in disguise, and boom, they're beating Joe Flacco's comeback player of the year's ass in the playoffs. Which team or teams will do it this season? Which bottom-feeding franchise made all the exact right moves to shock the football world in 2024? We'll find out now. Today's episode is sponsored by Underdog Fantasy! This is the third season Underdog has sponsored this channel. So show them some love and use my code ThatsGood or my link below if you want to play daily fantasy. If you want to play against me, I also have a couple private drafts linked below. And right now you can enter the Best Ball Mania tournament. Draft your team now and Underdog uses your best point total from your lineup every week as you try and claim the $1.5 million first place prize in the biggest fantasy contest on earth. Now I mentioned in previous episodes that if I get 10,000 signups on Underdog, they owe me $1 million. That still stands. It's a win-win if you want to play daily fantasy and support me. Don't just do it for me. Actually, okay, just do it for me. Just do it for me. Link below, code that's good. Now, before I answer who I think is the team most likely to turn it all around this season, I need to remind you who was the worst last year. I'm going to take the team that finished last in each division to see if they have a chance to rise to the top, or at the very least go from finishing last in the division to getting into the postseason, even if that's as a wildcard team. We'll look at all those bottom placers and gauge their chances with some fake percentages I invent along the way as we go. In the AFC, 'twas the Patriots at 4-13, the Chargers at 5-12, Bengals at 9-8. Oh, the Bengals! I picked the Bengals to be worst to first. I picked the Bengals. Can I just do that now and end the episode and save everybody time? That's the easy pick. Can I do that? No? Okay, Lord Google, I'll drag this out like RuPaul. The Titans at 6-11. In the NFC, we have the Cardinals and Commanders, both finishing at 4-13. I'll toss the Giants in, who are an abysmal 6-11. Serves those fucks right for benching our Italian-American hero, Tommy Gabba Cutlets of Ghoul. The Bears and Vikings tied at 7-10, and then, of course, the Panthers down at 2-15. Did you guys know that the Panthers didn't even get rewarded with the first overall pick in the draft, despite having the worst record in the league because they traded that pick away to the Bears last year? Did you know that? I'm going to guess that Panthers fans are starting to feel the way Falcons fans feel about 28-3 in terms of hearing about that trade up to get Bryce Young. And let's start with the Panthers, who in my opinion have no chance of going from worst to first. I give them an optimism percentage of just 8. That said, I want to give you some love, Carolina, because I think this team did improve. I'm not going to give you false hope or anything, just some damn respect. And a sliver of optimism. And yes, I got David Tepper's wife's approval for this sliver of optimism. Now, the Carolina Panthers made several high-profile acquisitions in free agency. The most surprising deal was the 5-year, $100 million contract given out to guard Robert Hunt, a move that a lot of people saw as an overpay. Then you had guard Damian Lewis, who was also signed for $53 million over 4 years, proving they're going to do whatever it takes to keep Bryce Young protected. If the show Band of Brothers taught me anything, it's that you want Damian Lewis protecting you. The Panthers are also banking on Akeem Ikwonu, their 6th overall pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, to overcome his past struggles and develop into a reliable and elite player. If Ikwonu can do it, the Panthers could be on their way to assembling a solid bulldozing offensive line. Then, of course, you've got new head coach Dave Canales, who revived Baker Mayfield's career as their new head coach, and he also overcame a porn addiction. I like the fit because the Carolina Panthers haven't given their fans anything to get hard about for years. On the defensive front, the Panthers bolstered their lineup with the addition of linemen A'Shawn Robinson and linebackers Josie Jewell and Jadeveon Clowney. However, these additions were basically offset by the trade of star edge rusher Brian Burns and cornerback Dante Jackson. Now, Burns was really the only star player to speak of last year in Carolina and was a huge get for the Giants. The second biggest star in Carolina, of course, was the drink that David Tepper threw on that fan or whatever. Now, Dante Jackson was traded to Pittsburgh in exchange for receiver Deontay Johnson, giving the Panthers some much-needed speed on offense and lowering the average age of their wide receivers below 45. They invested 3 of their first 4 picks on receiver Xavier Leggett, running back Jonathan Brooks, and tight end Jatavian Sanders, showing they're doing all they can to build around Bryce Young. Now, Brooks is recovering from a torn ACL, but it's not like the Panthers are in win-now mode anyway. This is going to take time to fix. I think we can all see that. Chances of worst to first? The same percentage you have of an actual Panther attacking David Tepper and forcing him to sell the team to a good owner. Let's flop over to the AFC, where the Chargers would be a prime worst to first candidate if the back-to-back Super Bowl champion Chiefs weren't standing in the motherfucking way. Now, the biggest move was obviously Jim Harbaugh, who's going to bring with him an unmatched energy, weirdness, and new identity that I don't think the Chargers have had since Marty Schottenheimer was leading the team. What I mean is they're going to run the ever-living piss out of the football and try to protect Justin Herbert, and they made that very clear when they drafted tackle Joe Alt at 5th overall. Let's Joe Alt delete the narrative, huh, Chargers? The Chargers are essentially starting over at wide receiver after moving on from both Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, but they began that process in the second round when they picked up Ladd McConkey, a rare Georgia product who hasn't had any vehicular mishaps. Probably because his first name is Ladd. It's just too easy for a cop to say, "I'm gonna let you off with a warning this time, lad. Yeah, get along there, lad." But that man still knows how to accelerate, and he's a complete receiver. Everyone thinks he's a slot guy because he's white. Stereotypes! He can do it all. And I'm fucking terrified of tight end Will Dissly, who always seems to burn the Broncos, but should give the Chargers a huge blocking advantage at tight end. Then, of course, you have J.K. Dobbins and big boy Gus Edwards at running back, coming over from Baltimore. Easy transition for those running backs going from a Harbaugh to a Harbaugh. As long as JK can stay healthy. They will be replacing Austin Eckler, of course. The ironic part about the Chargers is they're always the cute pick to turn heads heading into the season, but this year, I think they got legitimately tougher, built the boring way, and are better. And now, they're not the darling. They're not on most people's radar simply because the fucking Chiefs still exist. But the Chargers are more than capable of grabbing a wildcard spot in the AFC. Chances of worst to first?
21 gigawatts!
So, pretty good. On the other side of the country, the Patriots are entering the post-Bill Belichick era under Gerard Mayo. And their first order of business was to draft a new QB, one Drake May, at 3rd overall. Anyone with May in their name is now a New England Patriot. They desperately needed some help at wide receiver, and they spent their 2nd and 4th round picks on Jalen Polk out of Washington and Javon Baker, respectively, while signing free agent KJ Osborne and adding a receiving threat out of the backfield in Antonio Gibson. I do not care for the Patriots' chances to flip the script this year in year 1 with the Mayo era because shit, they're competing against Buffalo and Miami 4 times a year in the AFC East, and if Aaron Rodgers returns to form, that division could be a gauntlet. Not so easy anymore, is it, New England? The chances, though, of the Patriots getting from worst to first this season in the East are the same chances Bill Belichick has of outliving his 24-year-old girlfriend. Then we've got the Titans, who entered the offseason with ample salary cap space and were big spenders in free agency. They secured wide receiver Calvin Ridley with a 4-year, $92 million deal and added former Broncos center Lloyd Moore Cushion for the Berries for a 4-year deal at $50 million. Cornerback Chidobe Awuzie joined for 3 years at $36 million. Running back Tony Pollard signed a 3-year, $21 million deal. And linebacker Kenneth Murray came aboard for 2 years at a little over $15 million. The Titans also traded for corner L'Jarius Sneed from the Chiefs, then signing him to a 4-year, $76 million contract. They had a pretty big talent gap on their roster, and they spent aggressively to fix that, an approach I don't think we have ever seen the Titans do. However, the team also suffered a few significant departures, including linebackers Azeez Al-Shir, defensive lineman Danico Autry, and franchise icon and King Derrick Henry. Now, the Titans draft class received mixed reviews. 7th overall pick, J.C. Latham is switching to left tackle after playing right tackle at Alabama. And you rarely see a guy from Alabama go from right to left, huh? Yes, that one's good. 2nd round pick, T'Vondre Sweat, seen as a low-value run stuffer with red flags, is a gamble. No offense, Calvin Ridley, especially since the Titans lacked a 3rd round pick. At the end of the day, you look at the quarterbacks in the AFC South, and you have to ask yourself if Will Levis is winning that division over Trevor Lawrence and C.J. Stroud. Probably not. The answer is no. I don't think he is. Levis, though, has to learn to not take so many damn hits. He was hit 25 times in his first 3 games, which was 5 more than Ryan Tannehill in that same offense in 6 games. Levis was knocked down 46 times last season, the same as Geno Smith, who had 144 more dropbacks than him. Is it him or the line? The answer is yes. There's a ton of pressure on the Mayo Man in his sophomore season as a fringe, first-round talent QB. The chances the Titans finish first, same percentage I'd give coffee. Tasting good, with fucking mayo in it. That said, if he does finish first, I'll send Will Levis a free bag of my coffee from benchwarmerbrew.com. Deal, Will? You got the deal, Will? I'll let you assault my coffee if you just finish in first place. How about the Cardinals? Their additions include defensive tackle Justin Jones, offensive tackle Jonah Williams, cornerback Sean Murphy-Bunting, and defensive end Belial Nichols. Each of these players earning at least $7 million per season gives the Cardinals some depth that they desperately needed. The true turning of the Cardinals offseason was in the draft. With their first pick, the Cardinals selected Marvin Harrison Jr., a receiver with the potential to transform the franchise if he learned anything while living in his Hall of Fame dad's testicles. Darius Robinson, their second first-round pick, should give their defensive line a massive boost. Now, whether or not you think the Cardinals make any noise is going to be a reflection of Kyler Murray, but they're still looking up at the 49ers and the Rams in the NFC West. Their official chances to finish first in the division? The same percentage that the state of Arizona will have an abundance of water for its citizens in 50 years. As for the Commies, their draft was a highlight, holding 4 picks in the top 53 and 6 in the top 100. They kicked off by selecting QB Jaden Daniels at number 2 overall, and in the 2nd round, they chose defensive tackle Jerzon Newton, a pick widely praised by a lot of draft heads. The draft continued with notable selections like corner Mike Sainristil out of Michigan and tight end Ben Sinnott from K-State. By all accounts, new GM Adam Peters nailed it. This is how you nail it. Free agency was equally productive, with the Commanders adding several immediate starters without overspending. 3 signees included defensive lineman Dorrance Armstrong, linebacker Frankie Louvu, center Tyler Biadasz, and guard Nick Algoretti. Running back Austin Eckler, linebacker Bobby Wagyu, pass rusher Dante Fowler Jr., and safety Jeremy Chin. Fuck, that's a lot of signings. At the end of the day, I worry about the O-line. It is imperative to keep Jaden Daniels upright, and they don't have a clear replacement for Charles Leno. The only way to effectively replace a Leno is with a Conan, a barbarian type for the offensive line. But I'm assuming Washington will do the dumb thing and find some Jimmy to force in there instead of giving Conan the proper time to develop. Yeah, I'm talking about about late night TV now and not football. But fuck it, Conan was a legend, and what NBC did to him, I will never fucking forgive you for.
I'm perfectly fucking fine.
I'm not sure how many wins the Commanders get, but I think everyone will be wowed by Jaden Daniels through the course of the season. Washington jumps from worst to second worst in the division, but number one in optimism heading into 2025. Their official chances on winning? The same percentage Dan Snyder has at getting his team back. For the Giants, I'm even less optimistic, okay? Whose offseason is currently unfolding on HBO on Tuesday nights. We know they lost Saquon Barkley, swapping him out for Devin Singletary, and I don't think any of that shit really matters because they're still entering the season with Daniel Jones at quarterback and Drew Lock behind him when Jones inevitably gets hurt. Maybe Malik Neighbors totally transforms their offense, maybe, but I think the G-Men are a quarterback and a year away from threatening anyone in the East. Their official chances of winning the division, Gaba freaking Ghoul. The Bears and the Vikings both added rookie QBs in the NFC North, which went through Detroit a year ago. And it would be blasphemous to say that either of those teams will dethrone Dan Campbell as the rightful king of the North. But if one of them was to do it, it would have to be Minnesota. Not that I like J.J. McCarthy more than Caleb Williams, but I like Sam Darnold more. No, I don't. I'm kidding. But I do think JJ has a better head coach, and the Vikings are still just 2 years removed from actually winning that division. The Bears strike me as a team that's probably a year away, and I'm worried that if they struggle, they could reset Caleb Williams' development with a new head coach in 2025. Now, I don't think either of these teams are going to be bad, and there's a lot of exciting talent on both rosters. But it's just a weird division right now. You also have to assume that the extremely young and extremely talented Packers are going to get better because that's what young, talented teams do, especially when they already got a playoff win under their belts. Neither team will be first in the North. So the official chances are the same chances Caleb Williams has at saving the most quarterback-cursed franchise on earth. Not totally impossible. And then we got the Bengals, who are the most obvious choice to go from worst to first. It's a boring answer, but they're the right answer, since he was actually only 5-4 when Burrow was lost for the season, and they probably lost more in free agency than they gained. Joe Mixon's gone, Jonah Williams departs, and Tyler Boyd also exited. Probably more important than any of those guys was the loss of their run stuffer DJ Reader on the D-line. But you can make a compelling case that the Browns could take a step back when Deshaun Watson returns to the lineup, and who knows how the Ravens will respond to that devastating loss in the AFC title game. Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow are still 1A and 1B as quarterbacks in the AFC North, and I think it comes down to their two teams jostling around in the standings for a home playoff game. The Bengals are the correct worst to first answer, especially with Russell Wilson in the division as competition. They are the best, worst team on this list overall, but I'm giving an alternate answer as well, and I'm going with the Chargers. I see them as second in the AFC West, but Casey's luck has to run out. There's a reason no team has ever three-peated. Kansas City has been insanely healthy the last few years, and at some point, you can't count on that every single season. My official pick is the Chargers shock everyone and finish with the same record as Kansas City in the AFC West and get the tiebreaker because the Chargers had far fewer player arrests this offseason. That'll be the difference. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports here on YouTube. Please subscribe to this channel. And again, if you want to support me, and you want to play daily fantasy, sign up over at Underdog, link below with my code, That's Good.